Welcome to Audio Tales AI, your destination for captivating stories. Today, we unveil a tale filled with unexpected and life-changing decisions. Remember to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and let's dive in.
It all began when my mom came to visit me at school. Something she always did. She stayed at a local hotel during her visit. We were having dinner when her phone kept buzzing with messages. At one point, when she thought I wasn't looking, she took out her phone and started texting someone her hotel location and room number. This shocked me and my heart started racing. After dinner, I pretended to head back to my apartment while she went to her hotel room. In reality, I drove to a quiet, secluded area and burst into tears. These events would ultimately lead to the breakdown of my family and my close relationship with my mom. It has been over a year since that fateful night, and I'm now in my third year of college. I'm faced with a difficult decision whether to enter the NFL draft or complete my fourth year of college. My college coach is pushing me to finish my degree, but I can't help but feel it's more for his benefit than mine. Deep down, I know that the best choice for me is to pursue an NFL career and start earning a living. I really miss having my mom beside me, especially during my football games when I was just 14. Back then, she never missed a game, not even a practice. I could always count on her to be in the bleachers cheering for me. No matter if it was a cold winter day or a hot summer afternoon, she was my biggest fan. However, things took a turn when I found out that she started a relationship with two of my teammates during a game on the road. It was incredibly embarrassing and made me consider dropping out of the program, even though our relationship turned sour. My dad, who had always been in the background but hadn't played a very active role in my life, encouraged me to stay on track. After the fallout, I made a decision not to let my mom come to any of my games. It was tough, and it took some time to get used to her absence in the stands. To understand how this all began, let me provide some background. I have two older sisters and I grew up in a two-parent household. My dad was a workaholic and my mom worked part-time as an accountant while also being a stay-at-home mom. When I was around 14, I began to notice that my parents were slowly growing apart. First, I saw that they were sleeping in separate bedrooms. Then I observed that they were arguing a lot, but my dad would often walk away from those arguments. He didn't want his kids to witness him fighting with his wife. Even though my mom and I were close, I always had a great deal of respect for my dad. It wasn't always like that, though. I had to listen to my mom complain about him not doing certain things, and I felt like she sometimes picked on issues that could have been overlooked. I was undeniably close to my mom, and yes, I'll admit it, I was a mama's boy. She had always been there for me, perhaps a little too much at times, maybe a bit over the top, especially when it came to motivating me and nurturing my skills. She played a significant role in getting me to where I am today. I credit her for attending all my games and practices. I could always count on her being there cheering me on. I'm not saying my dad wasn't there. He was. He's the quiet type, and when he wasn't working, he enjoyed taking me out into the woods. He taught me how to shoot, and we found common ground in those moments. My dad has always been there to give me advice and encourage me, but he allowed my mom to take charge of the house and my upbringing. He did this mostly to avoid conflicts with her. When it came time for me to choose the college to play football, my mom played a significant role in the school I ultimately picked. I was a highly sought-after prospect with several scholarship offers, and I relied on my mom to help me make the right decision. She made a good call because the program I'm in now is a good fit for me. My college was several hours away from home, and my mom would visit me in college, staying in a hotel at least once every 2 weeks. Initially, I thought she was coming to watch my games or attend road games, but it turned out to be about more than that. If she hadn't been involved with my teammates in an embarrassing way, everything might have been fine. Looking back, I see that my mom and dad's relationship was deteriorating, mostly because my mom had become overly rolling for my dad. She might have been the reason he became a workaholic as their relationship strained under her influence. I often used to think that the reason my parents hadn't divorced yet was because they were waiting for me to leave home. But even after I left, I thought they would eventually get a divorce, but they didn't. My mom is an attractive woman, and I've always been aware of that. It's partly because she would remind my dad how she was quite a catch, and she was right. I noticed my friends talking about my mom and the interest they showed in her since I was in high school. At first, it was embarrassing, and I didn't like the attention she was getting. I wish she wouldn't show up at my games, but I eventually got used to it. I saw coaches and players staring and asking me about her, finding excuses to strike up conversations with her. Everyone was always respectful, and she would brush it off. I never in a thousand years thought she would consider being unfaithful to my dad. I'm not sure why I thought that way, but I'd always looked up to her. Everything changed in my second year of college when we had a game. My school was in the Southeastern Conference, and it was during this time that things took a different turn. I won't provide specific details about my position or the school I attended because I'd like to remain anonymous. I was one of the top players on my college football team, and it seemed like a sure thing that I would make it to the NFL. People looked up to me, and as college players, we had the opportunity to invite family members to our games, even those on the road. For this particular game, my mom and older sister were supposed to come and support me, but my sister had an exam and couldn't make it. My dad, as usual, didn't attend my away games due to his busy work schedule, and he and my mom often didn't get along. They would argue a lot, so he preferred to avoid the games. We were on the road for about a week, and what struck me as strange was that I didn't see my mom much during that time. This was unusual because she had come on the trip to support me. I reasoned that she must be busy with work, and I appreciated the fact that she made the effort to be there for me, even though she had work to attend to something I believed my dad wouldn't do. It wasn't until a week later that I began to hear rumors from a teammate that one of my fellow teammates had been involved with my mom. At first, I thought they were just trying to mess with me or taunt me as we often did to each other to get into each other's heads and see who could handle the mental pressure. Additionally, many of the players were jealous of me because they knew I had a promising future in the program, so I brushed it off thinking it was just mind games. However, the rumors continued, and I started to hear that 2 other teammates had also been involved with my mom around the same time. Even then, I didn't confront my teammates because, once again, I found it hard to believe. It's important to note that it wasn't unusual for family members to travel long distances to attend their son's games. I wasn't the only one. Almost all my teammates had family members come to watch our games, and most of us were from out of state. Everything changed for me one day as I walked toward my mom after a game. I noticed that she was texting and had a smile on her face. When I approached her, she quickly tried to cover her phone, but her body language gave away that she was hiding something. Later, during dinner at a restaurant that evening, her phone kept buzzing, and she couldn't take her eyes off it. At one point, she must have thought I wasn't watching, perhaps underestimating how tall I'd grown. I saw her texting someone, her hotel location, and room number. It felt like she couldn't wait to finish dinner, even though she had used the excuse of going to bed early before. However, this time was different because I had just seen that text message intended for someone else. Previously, I didn't mind leaving dinner with her early since I had my own commitments and friends and even girlfriends who invited me to events. We left the restaurant and she gave me a hug before hurrying to her car. I was left feeling confused and unsettled because I couldn't understand what she was up to. That's when it hit me that this wasn't the first time she had done something like this. It felt like deja vu, and I felt betrayed. It was as if all along she had been coming to my school not to visit her son, but to be with someone else. When I found out that my mom was being unfaithful to my dad, a whirlwind of emotions consumed me. At first, disbelief washed over me like an icy wave. It was impossible to fathom that the woman I had looked up to and loved my whole life, my own mother, could betray my dad in such a way. As the shock subsided, anger flared up within me. I was angry at her for jeopardizing our family, for betraying my dad, and for putting me in the middle of it all. Anger also swirled towards the teammates involved for breaking a trust I didn't even know was at risk. Sadness and hurt came next as I felt a profound sense of loss. The family that I had always known, the stability that I had taken for granted, was now shattered. It was as if a piece of my heart had been torn away, leaving an ache that seemed insurmountable. I questioned everything: why she had done it, how long it had been going on, and how I had been so oblivious. I felt like I was lost in a maze of secrets, and I desperately wanted to make sense of it all. Guilt crept in too. I wondered if there was anything I could have done differently, if I had missed any signs, if I had somehow contributed to the situation. It was a self-doubting feeling that was hard to shake. All these emotions intertwined, creating a turbulent storm within me. I was caught in a whirlwind of disbelief, anger, sadness, confusion, and guilt, all while trying to make sense of a shattered reality. It was a deeply painful and confusing experience that left me forever changed. I climbed into my car and made it seem like I was driving away, but instead I headed to a secluded spot. My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, and the more I dwelled on the situation, the angrier I became. I had always believed that my mom was visiting her son, but now uncertainty clouded my perception. I wasn't sure if she had come to see me or someone else. With each passing moment, a surge of anger welled up inside me. My anger wasn't solely directed at my mom, but also at the other person involved who I suspected to be a teammate. It made me wonder if the rumors I had heard for months were actually true. It was like everyone was taunting me, and I couldn't shake the idea that she might have given in to advances made by students and staff members over time. I wasn't always keeping an eye on my mom during the game or when she visited me. My focus was on the game, on the ball. After all, she's an adult, my parent, and she's married. Frankly, if she had chosen to divorce my dad and be with someone else, I wouldn't have been too bothered by it. What bothered me the most was that she was doing this right here where people knew me well. I was a big deal in that area and I needed to stay focused on my game. She was supposed to help me with that. But now it seemed like she was becoming a distraction a few hours past, and I made the decision to go to her hotel room to find out who she was having an affair with. When I arrived at the hotel's parking lot, I glanced around hoping to recognize a familiar car. However, the parking lot was packed, and there were so many similar cars, including those driven by people I knew, that it felt like it could be the entire football team's vehicles. I stormed into the hotel, not caring about the people around. I knew her room number, so I headed straight there. It's a good thing I hadn't reached for the gun in my glove compartment or things might have taken a violent turn. I banged on the door, not caring about the commotion. It took a while, but she eventually opened it. She stood there with her hair disheveled, looking at me as if I were the one who had lost his mind. I pushed her aside to enter the room and find out who she was with. She tried to stop me, but I proceeded into the room and found no one. It was then that I realized the bathroom door was closed and locked from the inside. So I rammed into it several times until it finally gave way. At this point, my mom was screaming, and I discovered not just one teammate, but two in the bathroom. It turned out to be one of the guys who had been rumored to be involved with her, and another friend who always hung around with him. I knew this second guy as a bit of a ladies' man frequently involved with girls around the college. He was an average player who occasionally made big plays but had no real future in football. The fact that he had pursued my mom instead of anyone else struck me as jealousy over my future and success. I lost control and immediately engaged in a fistfight with both of them. They couldn't withstand my anger, and one of them fled the scene. I continued to confront the other guy, hammering him in my rage. My mom and another person who must have heard the commotion stepped in to pull me off of him. I wasn't sure who the man was, but he urged me to leave quickly, explaining that someone might have called the police and I could risk getting arrested. He seemed to know me or recognize me from somewhere. My mom was in tears at this point, begging me to go. I left my teammate in a bloody mess as I exited the hotel room and got into my car. Before I left, I couldn't contain my anger and told my mom that she was dead to me. My rage was just as intense for her as it was for him. I took his personally because I believed it wasn't about X for him. It was an attempt to humiliate me as I headed back to my apartment. I called my dad and shared everything with him. Surprisingly, he was the one who managed to calm me down. He acted as if it wasn't a big deal, and reassured me that wasn't about them, but about me. He emphasized that I was the star, the future, and that there would always be challenges and adversities trying to knock me down. What truly mattered was how I handled those situations. The aftermath of the incident was overwhelming. I was informed that the police were looking for me, and the teammate I had fought with were considering pressing charges. My head coach caught wind of the situation, and mostly for his own interests, went into damage control mode. He used his connections to make the legal issues disappear, sparing me a visit to the police station. The coach then had a one-on-one conversation with me and assured me that he would have done the same thing in my situation. He echoed the sentiments my dad had shared, emphasizing that I was the star player and that others with no real future in the sport might try to sabotage me. He also opened up about his own past, sharing how his first wife had cheated on him and why he had a difficult time trusting women. After our conversation, he made it seem like I was overreacting to the entire ordeal, but he did acknowledge the humiliation I had felt. He promised to do his best to remove those teammates from the program, and he followed through a few months later. With this assurance, I felt a sense of obligation to stay in college for one more year rather than immediately joining the NFL draft. My siblings caught wind of the story and everyone distanced themselves from her. My dad filed for divorce and I haven't spoken to her since, even though she's been trying to reach out. I won't make excuses for her actions, but I do recognize that my parents' relationship wasn't in a good place. If she had had an affair on her own time, when she wasn't using a visit to me as an excuse, and especially not with two of my teammates, maybe I wouldn't be as upset as I am with her. She almost got me kicked out of the program and derailed my future. Although I do miss her presence at my games and the support she used to provide, it will take some time for me to heal from all this and rebuild a relationship with her. I don't usually hold grudges, and I didn't expect this one to last almost a year. Right now, I've already forgiven her, but it's hard to reconnect with her because being in the same program with people who knew what happened constantly reminds me of it. I won't let this incident change my career path, because I'm stronger than that. People might still make fun of me and talk behind my back, but my back is strong enough to carry all that. Altering my career path because of my mom's actions and two teammates who aren't significant in the long run would be a sign of weakness on my part. I'm eager to get into the NFL draft this year and leave all this behind, but I also feel like I owe my coach for his support and guidance. I like to think that there are still a few more things I can learn and accomplish before moving on.
Thank you for tuning in to Audio Tales AI. If you enjoyed today's story, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support keeps these stories coming. Until next time, remember, love, trust, and understanding are the foundation of a great relationship. But betrayal, lust, and deception make for the best YouTube videos.